Hi everybody. In this video what we're going to be doing is going over some of the lab equipment and lab glassware that you're going to be using in 8th grade physical science. To start it off, we're going to be looking at beakers. These are beakers. They come in different sizes in this class. You can recognize what size of beaker they are by the number that you see on them. So 50 milliliter beaker, 250 milliliter beaker, 600 milliliter beaker. All of the beakers are going to be used for transporting liquids, holding liquids, or possibly heating liquids on a hot plate. Now you will see that the beakers do have little increments on them to measure different amounts of liquids, but these are not accurate. If you're looking to accurately measure liquids, you do not want to use a beakers. Beakers are not accurate at all. They'll lie to you. The next piece of glassware is the Erlenmeyer flask. And again, different sizes of these. The Erlenmeyer flasks are kind of cone-shaped. They got this narrow spout at the top. The reason they're shaped this way is so when you have a liquid in there, and these again are used to hold, possibly transport, or even heat liquids, but now you can swirl them and they won't splash out. You can do a lot more mixing in these and the liquids don't splash out of them. Again, you're going to recognize them by the numbers that are on there. So here's a 300 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask and a 50 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. The Erlenmeyer flasks are also not accurate for measuring liquids. If you're looking to accurately measure liquids, you're going to use this equipment, which is a graduated cylinder. We have two different sizes here. This one that can't fit in the full view is 100 milliliter. This is a 10 milliliter. I have both glass graduated cylinders and plastic graduated cylinders. Most of the time you will be using the plastic graduated cylinders for the sole reason of when they fall, they do not break. This falls and breaks, it's a lot more money and harder to replace. All of the graduated cylinders have little tick marks on them. There are numbers on there with it. These are going to be used to accurately measure liquids. So anytime you want to get an accurate measure of a liquid, the volume of it, you're going to use graduated cylinders. You just have to make sure you read them properly, and we're going to learn how to do that in class. The next piece of glassware is going to be this, which is a test tube. Test tubes are going to be used to possibly transport either small amounts of solid chemicals, liquid chemicals, or hold them for an experiment to occur inside of them. As you can see, I have to hold this one because they don't like to stand up on their own. They'll fall over or they'll roll away. To help with that, we have this, which is a test tube rack. And the test tube racks, all they do is hold the test tubes. Now I am going to come back actually to the test tube to look at this. So we have the test tube and then we have this little thing which is a rubber stopper. The rubber stoppers go in the top of glassware to keep whatever's inside from spilling out or from evaporating away. You can have rubber stoppers go in test tubes. And you can also have rubber stoppers go in other glassware like Erlenmeyer flasks, and there are different sizes of rubber stoppers. Also going back to the beakers, we have another piece of glassware called watch glasses. They look like giant contact lenses. What these are going to be used for, mainly in this class, is to put on top of the beakers while they're heating so that whatever's inside of the beakers does not splash out and spit out on you while they're being heated up. But it still has this little opening at the spout for the beaker so that the vapors and the gases can escape. So these are called your watch glasses because they're clear, they're transparent, you can see through them, you can watch what's going on inside the experiment. This may be the hardest one to remember. This is a funnel. This is going to be used when you need to pour an amount of liquid into a smaller container or a container that has a smaller spout that isn't safe to pour directly into. This is a type of tongs. These are going to be used in class, and this type of tong is actually a beaker tong. They're used to pick up beakers, and they're going to be used to pick up beakers that are hot because you don't want to touch a hot beaker with your bare hands. You can see the shape of them. They're wide at the top to reach around and grab a hold of the beakers, and they can be used for beakers at different sizes. And they have these little pieces of rubber on them to keep the beakers from sliding out of the grip. Another piece of equipment are not tweezers, but forceps. These are going to be called forceps in this class, and again, we have different sizes of them, but all the forceps work the same way, and they're used to pick up smaller amounts of materials or smaller pieces of material. Next, we're going to go on to this, which is a stir rod with a rubber policeman. This little piece of rubber down at the bottom there is called a rubber policeman. This is going to be used anytime you have to mix a liquid by hand or mix a solid chemical into a liquid chemical by hand. You will use the stir rod. When you do use it, have the rubber policeman inside of the beaker, so whenever you're stirring, you don't smack it around. The rubber piece keeps it from smacking around the glass and possibly breaking. Without it, you get a lot of banging inside. Next piece of equipment is going to be the eyedropper and the pipette. The eyedroppers are made of glass with a rubber tip. The pipettes are plastic. Each one of these are used to distribute small amounts of a liquid, usually drop-wise, drop by drop. You use these a lot whenever you're trying to get a perfectly accurate measurement with a graduated cylinder, so you can add just a little bit of liquid at a time or take some away if you need. The difference is the pipettes are going to be disposable. The eyedroppers are not disposable. Pipettes disposable, eyedroppers not disposable. Each one is used to get very small amounts of liquid measured. The next two pieces are these. They look very similar, and they do have very similar jobs. It's just the amount of substance each one can move. This one I'm holding right now in the back here is called a spatula. This is a spatula. The spatulas are going to be used for scooping very small amounts of solid chemical, while the scopula is going to be used to scoop up or pick up larger amounts of solid chemical. Both of these are usually used for powder or crystal chemicals. The spatula is also very useful if you have something that dries inside of a beaker and you need to scrape it out. This is a very useful tool because of the shape of the ends here to help scrape materials out of beakers. The next piece of equipment, I actually have to step back a little, is going to be the ring stand. The ring stand is what we're going to use if we need to support something or if we need to attach something else to it. One of the things we can attach to it that you may use this year is something called a utility clamp. It slides down, it has a little screw in the back to tighten, and it'll hold equipment like a test tube inside of the mouth there. Slip the test tube inside, tighten it down, and it holds the test tube for you. So this is your ring stand, this is your clamp or utility clamp, and again, this is your test tube. Now to look at some of the equipment we're going to be using. One of the first things we'll use this year is this thing, which is called a triple beam balance. It's used to measure mass. It measures it manually, and it measures it by moving around these riders to get the proper measurement for the mass. We will be using those very shortly this year. Another piece of equipment used to measure mass would be the electronic balance or the electronic scale. These measure mass automatically. All you have to do is plug them in, hit on, wait for the screen to say 0.00, and put what you want to measure the mass of on the pan. If it does not say 0.00, all you'll do is hit this 0 button one time and wait for it to go back to 0.00. This piece of equipment you should be very familiar with. This is going to be our meter stick used to measure length. The last piece of equipment we have is the hot plate. These are both hot plates, and they both do the same thing. You plug them in and they heat up a substance without an open flame. This one only heats. This one will heat and stir. You won't have to worry too much about this stir much, but all you do for the heat on both is turn these dials and it increases the heat. This one goes numerically, this one does not. But each of them do have a little light that show you when they are hot. This is all of the equipment that you will most likely be using this year and all the glassware that you will be using this year. If there is other equipment or glassware, we will go over it before it is used. Thank you, everybody. There will be a quiz on this material along with your safety contract and the safety equipment around the room. You will get a Quizlet and a GIM kit to help you study this material. If you have any questions on any of the glassware, or if you want to come into class, or when you come into class you want to see it in person to get a better visual of it, please just ask me and I'll be more than happy to show you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.